Good afternoon. It is 4 o'clock on April 18th, 2022, and I'm happy to welcome you to this meeting of the Conway City Council. We are officially open at this time, and we will ask Deborah Dixon, who is the chaplain of the Conway Police Department, to come forward and lead us in our invocation if she's present. She is not present. I know we have a good minister in the house. Reverend Gary Lee, would you lead us in the invocation, please? And the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you and we praise you for what you've done and how you blessed us. Thank you for allowing us to come through a wonderful weekend of celebrating you. I ask that you would give us wisdom and guidance on what to do as we conduct the business of the city. Thank you for giving our council health and strength, all the city staff health and strength, and all those that are here. I pray, God, that you will continue to keep us bound together by your love so that this community can stay strong and effective for the greater good of our children and our children's children. In your son's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Reverend Lee. Elder Lee, I'm so sorry. I know better. We'll move forward with the agenda. First, requesting council's approval of the agenda. What is the will of the council? Mr. White.
Mayor, I'm going to reapprove the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second Mr. White's
Yes,
motion.
sir. Thank you. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda as it is set forth. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your right hand. And that carries unanimously. Relative to the consent agenda, what is the will of the council? Mr. Goldfinch.
I move we approve the consent agenda as listed, please.
Mr. Jordan.
I will say Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you. We have a properly seconded motion also to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate so by a showing of your right hand. And that motion also carries unanimously. We'll move down to public input, item 5. This is an opportunity for anyone to bring information or remarks to this council. The only exception would be those that have to do with an individual council member, probably not, or employee of the city, in which case we would need to take that up in a more private venue. We do need you to know that public input is not interactive. It's likely that somebody on staff will hand you a business card if there's a specific area that you're asking about. Otherwise, we'll just take your comments for what they are, and but there won't be interaction between us unless there's a very simple answer to your question. You're allowed 5 minutes, and you'll notice that in the rear and in the front of the room that there is a monitor that will help you keep up with your time. What else do I need? Whoever comes forward, just need you to start, please, with your name and address. And I ask that you please speak directly into the microphone. People in the rear often complain that they can't hear what's being said during public input. I've received public input from one Conway citizen, Linda Hendrick of 208 Park Avenue, whose concern is what can be done with the Main Street Bridge. I believe that she's had contact with one of our senior administrators, and with that done, we will just put that aside. Is there anyone else present who is here to speak under public input? Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move that we close public input at this time.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Yes, sir.
I'll second Mr. Goldfinch's motion.
We have a properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor with the showing of your right hand, please. The motion also carries unanimously. Mr. Hammond, I never said your name, but I know what it is. Item 6, special presentation. A is recognition of Conway Fire Department for receiving Fire Safe South Carolina Community Designation. Chief.
Mayor and Council, the fire department recently received notice that we were identified as a fire safe South Carolina community. This is a program developed in 2017 by the South Carolina State Fire, which is a coordinated effort between multiple departments throughout the state. It identifies communities that actively work to reduce fire-related injuries in our state, which decreases risk for residents and firefighters. So it's just a It's a small little feather in our cap. There's 104 departments in 36 counties that received the designation. That's out of about 575 departments. This was accomplished through taking several courses and going to several in-person meetings in 2021. Just a little bit of information that was sent from the program. In 2021, there were 366 new community partners identified statewide. More than 1,000 fire service personnel were educated in risk reduction topics, and 500,000 citizens were educated on fire and life safety topics. That's all through this program throughout the state. I did want to recognize Fire Marshal Jeremy Carter. He cannot be here tonight. Sergeant Jarrett Wallace and Engineer David Haynes and Firefighter Leah Howe. They're the four that actually did all the work. I'm just the one that puts it together. So thank them for their efforts to get to this designation. We also want to thank our community partners, Welcome Officer Coma Club and Mr. Sparky. They were part of this as well. And we'll get a sign from State Fire during the Fire Rescue Conference in June.
Wonderful. You bring that back before us, please.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And congratulations on behalf of our citizens and our staff and our administrators. Thank you so much. Item B is a discussion of an amendment to the City of Conway Municipal Code to create the Hotel Incentive Program, which provides economic incentives to develop hotels, motels, inns, and commercial short-term rentals in the City of Conway. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, I know this is an issue that's been discussed for quite some time now, how to get hotels to Conway. And we've discussed this briefly at the City Council budget retreat, and at that time, Council directed staff to look into this and bring some information back to you. So what we've done is developed a draft ordinance with some ideas for this potential incentive, and I just want to run those by you tonight and see what you like and didn't like, and provide some guidance. As you may know, in the previous years, past few years, actually, we've approved some amendments that actually do help hotels. We removed parking requirements for hotels downtown a few years ago. We also created an amendment that allows commercial short-term rentals, which is what's happening at Second and Laurel now. We also do have some incentives in place downtown for hotels. This includes a preservation tax incentive program, and this is if you have a historic building and you renovate it and you go through the process with community appearance board approval, you can get property tax reduction for 15 years, for up to 15 years. Also, if you have a vacant building, there are some incentives that are in place for that. And there's a redevelopment enhancement incentive. That's any new or existing business that's expanding in the downtown and along a few of the corridors. So right now, a hotel, if it was coming into downtown, could request reimbursement for capital recovery fees with one of the incentives. If they're doing a renovation, they could also ask for property taxes, building permit fees, and business license fee incentives. But this incentive is not just for downtown, what we're proposing tonight. It's for throughout the city. So what we have put together is an incentive to attract hotels throughout Conway. And this could include a reimbursement of property taxes, a reimbursement of hospitality taxes, and an expedited review period of 15 days rather than 30 days. I attended a retail recruitment training in the fall with Devin Parks with the Chamber of Commerce. And one thing we learned is a lot of times developers, time is money. And if they can get something reviewed quicker, they'd prefer that really to an incentive in some cases. So that's what we have before you tonight. Is the idea of these different ideas for incentives. So I just would like to hear from you and any suggestions you may have or questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hyman.
Yes. And this is just for discussion tonight. I'll bring it back later for public hearing or first reading.
As much as there's been a longstanding interest in having a downtown hotel, are there properties that are identifiable that should there be a prospect that we could direct them to semi-immediately?
Absolutely. We have small ones, not some of the large ones. I think some things would probably have to be worked on for that. But anytime we have developers come in, we pull out our downtown and riverfront master plan and go parcel by parcel and show this to them, which is one reason that we're updating it now, because the plan we were rolling out wasn't up to date. But there are some, yes.
There are several, aren't there? Yes, okay. Anyone have any comments or questions?
Mayor.
Yes,
Um,
please, Mr. Hammond.
Just wanted to say, this appears to be just what we were talking about at budget retreat, and I congratulate y'all for that. And I definitely support this, and I think that it's a good start. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll confess, I missed this section in the packet. So if I ask a question that was addressed, you can say, go read your packet. I didn't, I missed it. Any thoughts or discussion on a particular brand, like, giving preference to a Marriott or a Hilton brand as opposed to just, a lower rung?
We don't have that included in this. The way it is written though, it can be on, it's council's discretion on a case by case basis. So anytime someone asks for this incentive, we will bring it to you for discussion. We did something similar with family entertainment incentives. So you could decide if you wanted to give them all the incentives or just some of them, or up to 5 years, or 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So it's something that council has the discretion to do with each particular case.
Any preference for boutique hotels?
We don't have this in there now, but that's absolutely something we can include. And one thing I did include after talking with Chief Long, we have this for hotels, but not for motels, because it seems that's something that we would prefer and isn't so much of a public safety issue as the motels.
Mr. Goldfinch?
And I think you just addressed exactly where I was going. So thank you.
Anyone else? We'll continue to think and communicate with you as other ideas or questions occur. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is item C, request to rezone approximately 2 2/22 acres of property located at 1601 3rd Avenue, PIN 36803030017, 36806020001, and 36804040053 from high density residential district to City of Conway highway commercial. Ms. Harden.
This is a request as stated to rezone just over 2 acres land located in proximity to the Highway 501 overpass and off of Ash Pond Road. Current zoning that's shown on the left, the brown areas that are shown here are shown as high density residential, or our R3 would be the conveyance there. The dark red is highway commercial. The very dark red is the core commercial. And then we get into residential of different areas as we pass 4th Avenue. The future land use map has the property shown as split, in part because there is an area of wetlands behind off 3rd Avenue that runs up into the forested area and the vacant area around the former Santee Cooper plant and the property that's owned by Santee Cooper there still. While the future land use map is split, it still calls for residential high density. So when we have a property that is proposing to zone in contradiction to the comprehensive plans future land use map, we have to look at the area and figure out why and if this would be a good fit. Photos of the site as at Smith Avenue and Smith Street, and 3rd Avenue. This is next to Conway Air Conditioning. They are the applicants that are looking to expand their building. They've had a considerable amount of growth in the last few years. They have outrun their building and for office space. They did have an older house that was located on this site at 3rd Avenue. They had intended to put office space in there, but when they went to evaluate the residents for conversion to office space, they found that the building itself was not structurally sound and not able to be habited. So they did remove that so that there was no issue with vagrancy or the like. The property also has access to 2nd Avenue at the dead end. Being a new Conway, is that the word? Conway? New to Conway, I wanted to know why Second Avenue didn't connect into Third Avenue, and I found a large ditch. So there's no way for that to happen without a considerable amount of money. However, the last part, the little third of the 3 lots does have access to Second Avenue. The planning commission brought this up in their meeting and discussed considerably their concerns about how business traffic going in on Second Avenue. The applicant did indicate that all business traffic was to be located on Third Avenue where there's existing business traffic as is. Second Avenue is very residential in that area, and they have no intention of bringing the business traffic through there. Not only would it cost them a considerable amount of money to make a connecting piece, there's already access off Third. So that was a position that was discussed at the planning commission meeting. We also speak about the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan supports keeping the property as R3 because it encourages a variety of housing options and preservation of environmentally sensitive areas, which is the area that is shown in conservation preservation and future land use map to the rear of the larger tract. This density is proposed around the core commercial area in order to provide additional heads and beds, to use a colloquial term, to provide customers for the commercial base and for the businesses that are in the commercial core in a walkable or a quick ride.
May I interrupt you, please? I apologize. When you say that these housing options are encouraged, is that speaking directly to the desire to turn this into highway commercial?
No, ma'am, that goes to one side of the coin, which is
The other,
support-
yes, ma'am.
talk
I'm
about
sorry. Thank you
is
so
the
much.
Support staying with the R3, but the comprehensive plan also encourages a variety of commercial and industrial uses, development in appropriate locations that are comparable with surrounding land use, provides employment opportunities, and serves the needs of local residents. And this is a residential business that is a longstanding business in the area, and it does support local residents already, and they're looking to further do that by expanding their operations. So when the planning commission heard both of those sides of the coin, they made a recommendation to approve the rezoning so that the business could expand and have additional offices and space across the street from where they are located, rather than keep it as a high-density residential.
One thing that would be great, given the volume of traffic that's coming off of 501, I do business with them now. And to get into their lot is one thing, but to get out of it is quite another. And I'm wondering if there could be some design in their parking lot. I'm not sure where customers would go, but to either side actually, so that they front, so that their cars are fronting, coming out head first into that traffic. Trying to back into it is pretty deathly.
So
Could be deathly.
If I remember the applicant's dates correctly, he said that they built the company around 1980. And during that time, a lot of the communities, I can't speak to Conway specifically, but a lot of communities in the area did not have regulations on parking off the street. You could just pull in and pull back out. Since that time, with so many accidents and so many issues with liability and the like, a lot of the communities around have forbidden future parking that goes parallel in off of the street because it's difficult to see off the end. They prefer parallel, they prefer perpendicular parking. Am I doing it backwards?
Yeah, perpendicular.
Perpendicular
Yes,
is not preferred, parallel is preferred, and if there is a perpendicular component, it needs to be on an angle so that there can be a view corridor behind the driver.
I see. And that's what we require. So that would happen anyway. Yes.
I can't quote the law right now, so.
Here it would have to be off-street parking. There would have to be
Yes.
intentional off-street parking so you can get in and out without it being backing right onto the street.
Right. That's all I'm concerned about.
Put
Okay.
finger on the law, so I didn't want to say yes.
You're good.
Sorry about that.
You're good. Understood. There was someone else. I thought. Ms. Ryman? No. Any other questions? There being none, thank you so much. So this is an actual, this requires action by the council.
It will be on your public hearing date at the next meeting.
I see. Okay, wonderful.
The letters have been sent out and the process has started.
So we'll do first hearing, we'll do a public hearing at first reading.
Public hearing, the first reading,
Okay.
next meeting.
All right, thank you so much. Item D, a request to rezone approximately 4 and 83/100 acres of property located at 1500 Fourth Avenue, PIN 36804040028 and 36803020102 from City of Conway Core Commercial to City of Conway Highway Commercial. Ms. Harden.
This is property at 1500 Fourth Avenue, currently has a Dollar General retail operation and a large shopping center that is not fully used to its potential. The current zoning is shown on the left-hand side. That very dark red, as we just said, is core commercial. It is the same zoning that goes down through toward the downtown, past Third and into the area where we are now. Future land use plan does not show that changing. The future land use plan maintains that area as core commercial. You can see that there's purple near the intersection. So the intersection of Wright Boulevard and Fourth Avenue on all four corners is shown as highway commercial, but it drops to core commercial once you get past that first lot in the future land use map and in the current zoning. Some site photos from the site. You can see that there is an incline going up Powell Street from Third Avenue, and the store, the Dollar General store in back here is on that area. Looking up toward Fifth Avenue, because there are two properties that are in this request together, and the long skinny stretch here is this section of the shopping center where the driveway does end up intersecting with Fifth Avenue. There is a apartment complex directly abutting it off of Fifth Avenue. And on this side of the parking lot are some residential lots that are subdivided out, but they are all owned by the city. And across those lots is some residential units as well. So there's residents around us on the Fifth Avenue side. Staff's recommendation for this request, we were standing by the future land use map of the comprehensive plan that shows the mixed use and core commercial zoning. Well, I mentioned this during the planning commission meeting, that the difference in highway commercial is that it is on or near a major road, but neighborhood commercial, it borders areas of neighborhood and commercial use. It's more of a neighborhood scale in commercial uses. And it is adapted to being in a walkable area like a neighborhood. At the meeting, the planning commission discussed this item, asking me if this was something that would go forward to CAB, our Community Appearance Board. I indicated that it was because in my mind I had core commercial all the way to CAB. That was incorrect. And that after the fact, conversation with planning commissioners indicated that they might have taken a different route. Some of them might have taken a different route on the vote had I not misspoken. So I present to you that the planning commission did discuss the proposal and voted to recommend approval, but at least two of them after the vote indicated that the information that they had might have changed their vote and would like to see it again.
Has that information now been given to the planning
Yes.
commission?
The information was given to them the next day and an email distributed by me on behalf of myself to all the planning commissioners by email.
Does that give them an opportunity to reconsider officially?
Not unless you send it back to me.
I see.
This is a special request. The applicants are in the audience, and I'm here to answer any other questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goldfinch.
With the current core commercial zoning, can't they do what they want to do in the current zoning anyway? I mean, what's the need in rezoning?
The uses are allowed, but the design standards are different. The building has to come to the street in the core commercial, meaning that it has to be within 3 feet of the sidewalk. So on this particular property, for instance, anything that would go in there would need to be built at the bottom of the hill up against Fourth Avenue, and the parking would need to be behind that.
Mayor, if I may,
Please.
I think that's an important question. Zoning is about the use of the land. And the fact that they can use the land for what they want to put there today without a rezoning, the only reason the rezoning is coming in is because they don't like the design standards that we have in place. I think that's important to point out because it can be done within our framework. The applicants don't want to be subject to our framework. And I think that's really important to illustrate because we have a set of we have a vision for the city to extend the downtown down 4th Avenue within the core commercial, which was just reiterated in our future land use plan. And we have design guidelines to continue that fabric. Both users, both the Dollar General and healthcare partners can come into our framework and build within our framework, but they don't want to. And I think it's important to point out that they can, because we've seen it in other communities, but they don't want to in our community. And we have standards in Conway, and I think it's important that we stand on our standards. And we can have nice things in Conway too.
Understood. Thank you so much. Mr. White.
The current building that house Dollar General and the other places, are they planning on using all of that building for the or not?
There was discussion during the planning commission meeting that they were open to using the building. There was not enough engineering done yet to find out if it would fit exactly what they wanted to do. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. There was discussion about remediating some environmental issues on the building that might require moving or not using the entire building.
That building has been there for years, ages, and there have been some structural issues with the building that I noticed as a resident in the general area. I am all for them building a health center. As a former employee, they've done a marvelous job at Marion with the building down there, the Healthcare Partners building. But we have, as you said, we have rules and we need to follow the rules as well.
Yes, and I don't believe anyone dismissed with the need of a healthcare facility, especially on, as it's colloquially said, on this side of the river, that would be able to be accessed by the community, especially when we have those large floods that have cut us off from other resources in the past.
There's little question that they have pretty much outgrown the location on North Main. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you weren't done.
You messed it. The second part of the question, I just drew a blank. Just let me
I'm
think
so
for a minute.
sorry.
Go
Take your
ahead.
time.
If anyone else wants to say something, go ahead. I'm trying to think where I was going.
I just want to follow up on Mr. Emmerich's point. There's nothing in our current day zoning that precludes healthcare partners from building on the hillside. From where we are now, it would be on our right.
There's nothing in the use table that prevents them from.
Nor is there anything that would preclude Dollar General from building on the lower side near the bus station,
The
Coast
use-
RTA.
The use is allowed in both zones.
Thank you.
The second part of my question.
We'll get right back to you,
Was,
Mr. Hyman.
would Conway Medical Center be helping or assisting with that building?
Yes, at the presentation, they indicated that Conway Medical Center would provide some diagnostic services such as X-rays, MRIs, sonograms, and imaging.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, unless anybody has other questions, I'd make a motion on D and E to send these back to planning. I mean, planning so wrong. They need to have another bite at the apple before we make it.
I appreciate the opportunity to correct that mistake.
I'll second that motion. We have probably seconded motion to first return this to our planning commission. Thank you so much. Talking about blanks being drawn for an updated response to, it is customary that we would take it before them. We did so in this instance, but we didn't give them totally the factual information they would need to make a decision that would be guiding to us as council. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. I've got two thoughts going.
That is
Okay.
correct, ma'am.
All right, thank you so
I'm
much.
trying to make sure I don't do it wrong if you've got a motion on the floor.
I understand. There was just a question after the motion, but so there is a standing motion.
There is a standing motion.
Yes. So I'll call, are there any comments?
Comments.
Yes, sir.
And I asked my original question about, is this use allowed? Because it's my understanding while there have been discussions between the two parties to come together and do something, there's nothing that's been solidified. And my biggest fear is, and we've seen this over the years, is that we go in and we rezone a property. Well, I haven't seen anything. And my biggest fear is that, and I've asked and I've looked and I've talked with a lot of people, I'm all for this. Nobody wants that end of the street revitalized more than I do. But my biggest fear is that we go in and we rezone core commercial to highway commercial. The deal falls apart for whatever reason, for a million reasons. Okay. And then we can't take that back. Anything, and I emphasize anything, could then go there and destroy that neighborhood. Okay. And then we would be villains. And so, that's the risk we run. And that's why I asked the question.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Bowler.
I guess my question is a follow-up to Councilman Goldfinch. When we say anything can come there, what are those things that can
It is.
come? If we
I'll
do
take a-
decide to rezone it and then it does fall apart, I'm just.
I'll take a
curious.
stab at it. Highway commercial is the least restrictive zoning that there is. So when you think of those activities that nobody wants near their home or near their business, if you think about bars and restaurants, if you think about tattoo parlors, if you talk about if there should ever be strip clubs, it covers everything that you can imagine that is legal to take place in a city.
Mayor would correct you on the strip club piece. I don't think there would be permitted there. There are separation requirements which prohibit this location. But for the most respect, you are correct. Hybrid commercial is the least restrictive commercial zoning. Industrial zones would allow some things that commercial would not, but
That's right.
it's, yes, you are correct. And
Okay.
in your
Except
packet,
for strip clubs.
in your packet, in the last item for the Third Avenue one is the highway commercial use table. So if you wanted to look at it, it starts on page 44 in your packet.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Councilwoman Butler, that one in your packet is isolated to the current zone and the proposed zone. So you don't have to look through the whole suite, but you're welcome to keep that section of the code.
Oh. Thank you.
It's helpful to have.
Yes, please.
Is there anything that we need to be educated about?
Absolutely. Okay, I just do that. I noticed a hand and I know the role of people who are interested in this particular thing. Is there anything that we need to answer for you, or is there any pressing information that you'd like to share with us? I saw your hand first. If you'd come forward, please. And the lady on the end, please.
I'm David Elliott. I'm project manager with G3 Engineering and Surveying, and I am representing Healthcare Partners of South Carolina and Dollar General on development.
Okay.
This T. Cooper James and Associates. Several things that I wanted to just mention here. Both of these entities are vitally concerned and interested in the improvements that they will make to this part of Conway and to the properties. And they are also very much aware of the standards, the high standards that have been set by the city of Conway. And the reason that they are asking for the rezoning is because of constraints for both of the sites. The existing property where the shopping center is located now, the empty shopping center, is currently occupied by the Dollar General, which under our request would be allowed to move across the street with the development that is currently in for review of the city of Conway. And then also you have the Healthcare Partners facility, which the plan is to utilize the existing facilities which are set back from the road with the parking in the front. And due to the size of the investment here, approximately 25 million, that would require them to bring those properties up to current zoning standards, which would then require them to move to the front of the street. And the service to their patients would, by nature of the type of facility that it is, requires that the patients enter at the front of the building for the imaging that was mentioned. And for other reasons, they require the parking at the front. And the Dollar General as well, that is a vehicular access facility as well. And there are site constraints there. The grades from 4th Street down to Gaskey Street behind, and also drainage issues coming from across the street. And one other thing to mention is that we understand that there was a procedural error in the review the other day, but time is very much of the essence here. And we are under very tight time constraints for Dollar General to relocate before the facilities that are currently the shopping center would be available for redevelopment by Healthcare Partners of South Carolina.
Thank you so much. Ms. Harden, when does that group meet again?
May 5th.
May 5th, and our meeting is on, what is the first Monday in May? Does anybody know? May 2nd, I see.
So it would be May 15th or so.
If we meet on the 2nd, we'd meet again on the 17th.
We would meet after your next meeting. On the 5th, you would have the 2nd, we would have the 5th, and then it would come to you on the 16th.
Yeah. Could the planning commission itself call a special meeting? If we were that close in time to making an important decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. That would be helpful. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am, if you would, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Slide. I'm here, representative from the Dollar General. I want to make sure everyone is clear about what the arrangement is. I know your concerns were expressed about the deal falling apart. I think it's really important to make sure everyone understands that the property that is on that's the east side or the west side of 4th Avenue has already been purchased. The title deed to that property is owned by Healthcare Partners of South Carolina. They already own, they have made that commitment. They have worked really hard with other providers in the community to get contractual arrangements to bring much needed healthcare services to our community, and not just our Conway in general, but also pointedly to that particular area, which is on this side of the waterway, on this side of the Waccamaw River, which, as we know through the flooding, we need to have access to healthcare. People will drive to Little River or North North Beach, or they'll drive to Georgetown if they can get there. But we in Conway, we deserve and we need access to healthcare. Our community needs access to healthcare. As far as the contractual arrangements, Dollar General is a current tenant in the property on 4th Avenue. The deal is they need to vacate the premises so that Healthcare Partners can move forward with rebuilding or rehabbing or improving that existing structure or renovating that area. They can't do that while they're occupying that space. And so that's why they have partnered together to allow Dollar General to go ahead and asking and seeking permission from the council to allow them to construct their site on the other side of Fourth Avenue, which would in turn free up healthcare partners to be able to move forward with the development and to stay on track with bringing in the imaging centers and the other diagnostic services and other specialists available through Conway Medical Center. And so time is of the essence on those contracts and on those lease arrangements. And so we would ask that if there's any consideration in mind towards sending it back to the planning commission, that be done on an expedited basis. We were all present at, most of the folks that are here, were all present at the planning commission meeting week before last. And the information was hashed out thoroughly. That's probably one of the longer planning commission meetings that I've been involved in. And people went above and beyond in explaining what the plans were for healthcare partners, what the plans were on the other side of the street for the Dollar General location. And those things are moving forward as far as the design on the Dollar General side. And there was some discussion about Conway has standards and those standards need to be met. If you look at the map that's on the current zoning on the left-hand side, the arrow pointing back, the intersection of Wright Boulevard and Fourth Avenue, that area, or excuse me, I'm sorry, the one on the right-hand side, that future land use plan, that area is purple. That's all highway commercial. That plan was set in place, and I know there's a vision, but that is for all intents and purposes, an arbitrary line, which can be moved and would to suit the needs of this community and to make it make sense. Right there, you are transitioning from 701 South, where there are hundreds of log trucks and heavy machinery that travel that road. If you just go through there on a daily basis, you can feel the grooves in the road from all the tractor trailers coming back and forth from Georgetown and North Myrtle Beach, coming through Conway. And it's a 4-lane area. There's a natural transition from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane road that happens in the middle of that block. And so transitioning that, rezoning it from core commercial, which is in design, as it stated, for walkability and access to services to community, to highway commercial, that takes into consideration being on a major thoroughfare, which that is in the 4-lane area, and I believe that is monitored by DOT, would make sense. I still think you can accomplish the vision of extending the downtown area beyond just this historic district and moving that further into the more commercial area, but you can also accomplish this goal for improving our city, this blighted area that is in desperate need of improvement, and your constituents, our neighbors, our friends need this access to healthcare and need this $25 million revitalization into our community. And so we are asking that this be having a discussion that you feel is necessary, but we would like to move forward with the first reading that is scheduled for the next meeting. To push this back several months is going to be could be possibly the death knell of the whole arrangement, and further delay any development in that area for another 5 years.
Well, we've just been assured that that the committee can meet prior to our next meeting. So that certainly isn't pushing it back any appreciable amount of time. And my single question is, given, I mean, nobody doubts that this would be a huge thing for the city of Conway, that any improved access to medical care and to have it so central in a community where people don't typically have automobiles is just ideal. I mean, that isn't the question before us at all. I think the real question is if Dollar General can, in fact, move forward in putting up its building, I don't understand why we don't just do that with the design standards that are in place.
Well, because there is and I think the engineer may be in a better position to address that, but as far as the layout and the store design, that I represent the developer, who does not own Dollar General. Dollar General selects the property based on the demographics, based on the traffic, that is the traffic information, and They have selected that location for Powell Street and Fourth Avenue. And the building design based on what has worked in the area and has worked for the on their studies. And so that's what has been set in place. And so as far as the parking area and the layout of the store, there was a mentioned earlier at the planning commission meeting that there was a design that someone had seen in Nashville, I believe it was, which it was a lovely store, lovely setup. But that particular site location and that store layout is considered the DGX, which is a very new and innovative. And in fact, there are only 12 DGX locations in all of the United States. And I don't have the numbers in front of me as far as how many Dollar Generals there are in the country, but I can count 5 that are in Conway. And so if there are only 12 DGX locations in the whole country, I think it's pretty clear that that's a rare.
We've been made privy to some photographs, very few of which were shown as DGXs that had a front entrance, that had parking in the rear, that were attractive, that would fit everything that we require for neighborhood commercial. And so my question continues, why can't one of those be built?
Well, I think anything can be built. It's a matter of the timing of it, the expense involved in it, and the not just the expense in the dollar figure on that, but the delay. And so if this is not able to go through with the arrangement that is requested, then I think there is a real concern about the existing store remaining in the place where it is and all the development being postponed for some period of time.
Mr. Goldfinch.
And I presume the owner of the existing store is here or operator, no?
The developer, Mr. Conway.
And I would thank you, Ms. Sly, you did a great job. I would echo the mayor's sentiments. Why would you want to remain in that location? I go there, I shop there. It's frankly less than desirable as compared to your other locations. I would think that you would want to have this opportunity to move across the street. Is it my understanding that materials and such have already been ordered for this particular building?
Yes, sir.
Under the current, yes, sir, under the current zoning, which didn't allow for it anyway.
That's correct. So I'm Tom James. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm the developer representing Conway 707 or Conway DG 707 LLC. We submitted plans to the city of Conway back in March, and there was an error made because we didn't realize that we were in this particular zoning or commercial zoning and what that entailed. We didn't realize what the zoning entailed at the time. Nevertheless, the site plan that was presented to Dollar General at their real estate committee and the lease we currently hold has the building in place, a standard configuration building in place. Just like the building that you see, the new construction on 501 at Richardson, we actually built that building. The new building here that's proposed for Conway 701 would look nearly identical, same contractor. People say, why can't you just change the building? Yeah, that we could change the building if we wanted to. And the reality is we can't. This is the site this is the site plan configuration that was approved in this location. Dollar General has the option of pulling another 5-year lease extension in its current location. They're about to do that right now. Dollar General builds more than 1,000 stores a year. They have more than 17,000 locations across the US. I'm just one developer of many. I'm not employed by Dollar General, I'm totally separate. But we have this one site, and we have a lease for this one site. And Dollar General will only move from the current location, the inline location in the shopping center, if they can improve upon their current situation. And they can improve upon it with a freestanding store that allows for better visibility and better access. And I speak to you as a developer, not just for Dollar General, but we develop for other clients as well. And I can tell you that these rules hold true, access and visibility, especially so with the case of a client like Dollar General, because they're all about quick access. They're all about it. They're a discount retailer. And it's what I'm trying to say is that it's a little bit disingenuous to say we just aren't doing it because we don't want to do it. No, we can't do it. Dollar General won't do it. So what Dollar General's going to do right now is they're going to go ahead and exercise their 5-year lease option. And they're going to stay in that shopping center. And that's going to delay Mr. Eubanks and his plan for healthcare associates to move in and revitalize this area. And I've seen the area here. It needs revitalization. I can promise you a good product with Dollar General, and Jim can promise you an even better product with what he's bringing to Conway. I don't think anything we've discussed here, and I don't understand what the issue was that happened with the planning, with the zoning board, and this idea about whether or not it was an overlay district or not. I was at that meeting. I heard everybody who spoke there. It was pretty clear to me. What I can tell you though, as a developer, and the guy who's ordered the steel building for this package, and the guy who's got the lease in his hand, that, and I spoke to Dollar General about this, this is it. You guys want a new Dollar General and you want this healthcare associates to come in and redevelop this area, this is it. Otherwise, Dollar General signs its 5-year lease. And I don't know how to be more clear than that. I hate to be blunt, but I felt like I needed to. So I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman.
And I'm gonna be blunt. Do you
Yes, sir.
think that that product that you got in that shopping center right now is something that you should be proud of and that we want in Conway?
I think Dollar General is a great retailer. And
No, I'm talking about that one.
that store.
Yeah. Have you walked in it lately? You can't.
Yeah, well, I realize what you're saying, Mr. Hyman. I agree with you. And I think that a new product, a new store is very necessary here.
Well,
And I think what we build will be a vast improvement over what's there right now.
Here's my issue, if I may. Your development company goes from town to town to town to town doing these things.
Right.
You understand that different towns have different rules. They have different zonings. They have different requirements. You hired a local engineer firm that understands our rules. You ordered the material for a building that would never go there. Okay? And now you're trying to hold us hostage with this healthcare building that everybody wants for the benefit of our community. And you want us to make an emotional decision to fix what I think you guys did intentionally from the start. And I'll just say that. I'll be blunt.
That's incorrect.
Well, and I can't prove that. I wish I could. But it's just, it's insulting.
Well, I'm sorry.
and I've got a question for the engineer. I mean, you, based on what he's saying, you are representing conflicting parties. And it sounds like you may not have done your job in the first place. Is that fact?
G3 Engineering was contracted to do the site development, design and permitting for this.
And when was that?
We have done this over the last several months.
Okay, because he's on,
I
I
did
think he
not-
bought the property January of 21.
Yes.
Okay, so you've been involved with it just the past couple of months.
No, not the last couple of months.
Mhm.
Really since fall of 2021. But that did not involve the due diligence and determining the selection of that site for this facility. I was not personally involved.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're in a position now where you've got conflicting parties that you're representing.
Pardon me?
I said, it sounds like now you've got conflicting parties that you're representing. Are you actually representing healthcare partners? Have they hired you?
Yes, they have both asked me to work with me.
Have they hired you?
Yes.
Goldfinch.
I got one more thing. And no, we're good. This is a comment. And I've thought about this a lot because I own 2 buildings on 4th Avenue that I renovated, nothing to that scale. I'm proud of this town. Nobody wants that stretch renovated more than I do. Nobody wants healthcare on this side of the Waccamaw River more than I do. But fact, Conway Medical Center is coming to Conway, whether it's there or somewhere else, they're coming. Here's my problem, or here's my challenge rather. Several months ago, we had a debate just before some of us were elected or reelected. And in that debate, and I appreciate the Chamber of Commerce putting that on, we were asked, why do you want to be on council? And my ultimate answer was, a generation from now, I want my two little boys to want to come back and live here in Conway, South Carolina. I don't want instant gratification. I run a business, I get it. Numbers are numbers. Okay, but if Dollar General needs to exercise their option on the 5-year renewal, do it. Because guess what? If we allow you to build what you want to build, where you want to build it, that'll be there for the next 50 years. And we'll never make that transition. And so I respect your passion and your enthusiasm, every one of you sitting over here, and what you want to do. I truly do. But understand the seat that I sit in is different. And I'm not looking at next year or 5 years from now. I'm looking at 30 years from now. I'm looking at 50 years from now. So please understand that respectfully. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll hear from Elder Lee, and then we'll hear
I just
from,
had a question.
you just want,
I had a question.
Elder Lee, could we have Councilwoman Butler speak while you're coming up?
And I guess I just have a question. That if Dollar General does end up having to sign the 5-year lease to remain where they are in the current zoning that we have, I guess my concern is this really what we're gonna leave the community for 5 years? I guess that's my question. Like, if there is an option to improve, how can we make sure we make that improvement for the betterment of that community? While I understand keeping our community looking as beautiful as it can be, but at the same time, this 5-year, if they have to sign this 5-year lease to remain in the same building, in the same location, in the same standards.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
It's an eyesore.
And my only response would be the same as has been said, a few times already. The more we just allow the rules to not be
I
followed,
get it, yeah.
not only are we going to have a standing Dollar General that is a sore thumb in a community, but we're going to have who knows what else. Part of our job is to look very long term, and planning is a huge function of it. And when some ideals are set in place so that we can reach that panacea at some point in time, it might mean that we have to say no to some things. It might mean that it's grueling, and it might mean that we wish that we could, because there are circumstances that would lend themselves to a better environment in the short term. But I think we have to look broader than that, and that's just my answer to your question. And I don't know that suffices, but that's where I would sit on that question. Any other comments from the council before we hear from Elder Lee? Elder Lee.
Thank you for your time. I dressed this way because I didn't expect to talk. We had a discussion I was at the previous meeting, and it was extensive. Matter of fact, I missed the meeting because the meeting ran so long. At the meeting, quite a bit was discussed. So it's a little disheartening to hear that a mistake was being made. And at that meeting, we discussed that time is up. Yes, I have the privilege of having two hats in which I'll mention today. One is I do work as Vice President of Economic Development with the Chamber of Commerce. The second is, more importantly, honestly, for me at this moment, is I pastor a church called Mason Temple that's in this community. There are only 3 churches in this community existing at the moment right now. One is Mr. Larry's race path with Bethel. The other is Cherry Hill, and the other is our church, Mason Temple. We have Mount Zion out there by the gas station. Most of the people in this neighborhood, we pastor and we oversee. We know their names. We know what they need. I can't talk about the numbers of Dollar General because they were here and I'm not privy to mention that. I will tell you the numbers of that dilapidated eyesore of a Dollar General that you all mentioned are high. They make good money. You want to know why? Because that is the grocery store for the people who walk. 75% of that clientele, as we understand it, walk there. I'm here. I was born here. I stayed here because I love my community. I'm a little disheartened that Mr. Goldfinch can be so convinced that CMC is gonna come here, whether it's there or another building, but is uncertain about whether or not somebody who's put millions of dollars already into a $20-25 million project is actually gonna do what he said he's gonna do. How can we be certain on one hand and not certain on the other? The other thing is, this isn't a new thing. The zoning for this future site to bring downtown that way was done in, I think, 2008. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. We're 15 years almost from that day. And to my understanding, no development. I was there walking through several businesses trying to get them to change this dilapidated building. The current zoning calls for the building to be on the front and the parking and the entrance on the back. Law enforcement is here, chief is here. I wouldn't let my wife walk into the building when sun goes down if the parking is in the back and there's no visibility from the road. Anybody who knows that area knows it's probably not a great idea. I've seen it through a lot. Last thing I'll say is, even the city council discussed moving your town hall down there. And the reason given was that it wasn't walkable. And we weren't gonna move it there because it wasn't walkable. We needed walkable traffic in order to go to City Hall. Downtown has to be walkable. And the recommendation of the zoning commission when I was there was not just to rezone this, but just to shift it one block and allow the downtown district to start one block over where the Shepherd's Table is versus that one. The building and the site where Dollar General is currently has buses behind it and building supplies on the road. This is a win for the people I represent. And I am very apprehensive about saying anything in public because it's always scary because I don't know who's going to say what, and I'm in a sector that it matters to me what the people I represent think. But this was a no-brainer. Getting up here to say, putting in another 5 years or whether or not they're going to move or not, for a second, you're right. You have to make tough decisions, not about future use of the city, but the citizens you represent. And this is a high demographic. We have 2 liquor stores in walking distance. And they're bringing a $25 million healthcare facility. And it doesn't look like we're at all receptive. I thank you for your time, but I want you not to remember what you think Conway can be. Because honestly, the reason I stayed is not because what I thought Conway could be. I stayed here, my brother moved to Atlanta and my sister moved to Columbia because I love who Conway is. This is a great opportunity for the people who currently live here. I thank you for your time.
I was named, so I'm going to respond. 3 things. City Hall didn't move down there because we weren't going to spend $20 million on a building. Number 1. Number 2, I posed the same question, Mr. Lee, as you did. Do I want my wife going to a parking lot behind? And then the response was thrown back at me and it resonated. Well, do you let your wife shop downtown? You let your wife go to the Trestle? They don't have a parking lot out front. It's in the back. And finally, show me a funding package. Show me a funding package. Can healthcare partners actually build a $20 million project? I do. I mean, is that a feasible thing? Because again, you talk about 2 liquor stores within walking distance. Let us rezone that highway commercial and the deal falls through and you'll have 5 liquor stores within walking distance.
And also, my wife works downtown. There's a night-and-day difference between downtown and Bangor.
Good afternoon, Jim Banks, CEO for Healthcare Partners. I can't give you a definitive yes. All I can say is we've talked to several banks and they have an interest in this project and another financier out of Charlotte. So I feel comfortable that we can get the financing. That's all I can tell you.
And I just want to comment.
Yes, sir.
We want you here. We want this project to go through. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that a Dollar General is holding up a $25 million project. And as far as that goes, I look at it, they bought the property a year before y'all did. They had plenty of time to do their due diligence. Again, we want you. But we're not, at least I'm not. I'm not willing to completely just shut down what our rules and regulations are because they didn't do their due diligence. Again, this doesn't, and Gary's arguing for you. I don't hear Gary arguing a whole lot for Dollar General. And the reason is because everybody in this room knows they made a mistake. But again, I don't want you to think that we're trying to push you away because that's not it at all. And Adam, am I right that they could actually build on the site that they're at
Yes,
currently as core commercial?
yes.
And they could have parking in front.
Well,
If they can remodel the building they have, they don't have to do anything.
What we
the
originally told
only
them.
Yeah.
the risk we have is if we get behind the walls, which we haven't done obviously, and we find something that precludes us from our plan, which is to revitalize the property as it currently exists. Then we have to abandon our plans, and I'm not sure what that would mean. If we had, I mean, there's no way we can, as a healthcare facility, bring our facility up to the front of the property and not have parking out front. ADA considerations.
What about MUSC, Charleston? All of theirs are, you park behind it.
I mean, again, that, I just don't see it happening on that piece of property.
Let's hear from Mr. Emmerich briefly. Please, we may still need you, Mr. James.
If they're able to remodel in the place they have, then they don't need to bring it up to the zoning standards of bringing the building forward. And we've had that conversation. If they have to tear it down for some reason, then the Dollar General lease isn't going to do them any good either, because that building's going to have to come down.
Right.
If there's structural flaws that make it uninhabitable, I've never read their lease. I don't know what it reads, but I would assume that if they can't inhabit the building, they can't inhabit the building. Then they would have to bring the building forward. And if you're going to have an investment of $20 to $25 million in your downtown, then it should look like we want it. It should look like we can be proud of it. It should be a building that stands for the next 100 years and that we're proud of, just like MUSC in Charleston. And I pointed this out to Mr. Eubanks again, and I'm really, just like y'all, I share the same passion for them being here in this site and bringing the revitalization of this neighborhood. But the building they have now is built at the curb, and they're operating out of it for as long as they've been there. You can do it. They've done it. And it will extend the downtown in one generation instead of waiting another 3 or 4 to get it done.
So the grandfathering is essentially would take care of the, if
If they can use the same building.
if it doesn't get torn down, what about the 50%? Is that the standard?
There are some standards that have the 50%, but that all involves building code and whether it's currently up to code or not.
Okay.
Well, that is, I don't think we've even determined that until there's structural engineers and architects involved.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to ask any other questions?
One more thing, and I can only speak for myself, but we own 7 lots adjacent to the property that you purchased. I'd give them to you if that's what you need to bring a public good to that area for parking, for what have you. Again, speaking for myself, but we want to work with you, but I think what you're hearing is that we're not willing to compromise our integrity as it relates to our duty to the city to do what is being requested.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll hear from one last person, and I think it's time to move on. Please.
Yeah, I just want to make some comments, Mr. Goldfinch, because I think it may have been a little bit unclear early on. Every time we do a project like this, we pre-order steel in today's market. So I think Mr. Goldfinch somehow thinks I was being disingenuous and that we tried to box in this committee of this town. Truthfully, anything from that, that's far enough from the truth. That never happened. We always pre-order steel. We built the facility, we presented a plan that we thought everybody could live with without knowing the setback condition. But it's a plan that Dollar General can live with, and Dollar General had accepted. We wish that Conway would accept it and understand the situation, and our apologies for any kind of.
Yes, sir. And if it isn't used here somewhere, with your rate of growth, that steel will certainly be used.
Okay, yes, ma'am, that's correct.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Sir, how do you do? I think we're going to close this at this point.
There is an open motion as well.
There's a motion on the floor. Would you repeat it, please, Madam Clerk? It's been long enough that I'm afraid I've forgotten it.
Motion was to move it send both items back to planning commission.
All right, and so we have an active motion on the floor, and I'm going to call the vote. And it is to take this issue back to the planning commission so that they can make a decision based on correct information. All in favor of that motion indicate so by showing of your right hand. And those opposed. We have one member opposed. I'm sorry, two members opposed. Motion carries with a majority.
Can we turn that mic off?
The mic is up. You just have to speak directly into it. Did some of you miss some of that? I'm so sorry. I will tell people in the future again to please speak in directly into the mic. Moving along, we're now at item E. Request to rezone approximately 9,400.
You're at F.
I'm so sorry.
I believe that you just moved that back to the
D and
planning
E, that's
commission.
right. All right, very good. Thank you so much. Item F. Is a discussion to amend Article 6, Design Standards, Article 7, Streets and Circulation, Article 9, Landscaping and Buffer Requirements, and Article 10, Subdivision and Land Development regarding development and design standards for single-family and multifamily developments. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. In 2019, City Council asked staff to consider design standards for residential subdivisions. The issues were discussed at several planning and development committee meetings and council meetings. Based on this conversation, staff released a survey to the public. The results showed that each group preferred foundation landscaping, full front porches, hardy plank with brick, crawl space, and elevated slabs, side garages, roads with garage but no curb and gutter, 20-foot street width, and large planting strips was for street trees in a residential neighborhood. Based on that, City Council sent the item to Planning Commission, who created a residential design standards committee. That committee met in December 2019 and January 2020 and made recommendations that were forwarded to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission heard those recommendations in March 5th and June 4th, 2020, and approved those recommendations that were then brought to the City Council right about the beginning of the really big roller coaster ride of COVID. At that time frame, when the City Council was meeting via WebEx, there were some concerns about the facade materials and distinguishing between the different types of vinyl. Staff revised the language regarding facade to address this concern.
I'm sorry, I was just checking because you're
Okay.
not quite in that mic
I
and,
got you.
and I can't get anybody's attention to tell me whether they can hear you or not. I was trying to be,
Do
you
I
know, a
need to
little
repeat
discreet.
that for anybody?
I keep doing this
Are we
and I'm
good?
trying to make eye contact with anybody and nobody will look up.
Y'all know I will talk.
So I think they hear you.
Okay, so at that time, when the item came back and forth, it got lost in the fray. So during the budget workshop, it was discussed about bringing it back. So the items that you have before you are some recommendations that were left over that were not yet implemented. There were some recommendations from the committee that were implemented into the UDO, but these are some of those that we were still pondering on at that time. And apologize for not having any personal remembrance of this. I wasn't here yet, but I got here as fast as I could. So some of the things that we discuss in these general design standards talks about vinyl siding and where it can be used on, and this applies to R1, which is our most stringent single family, R2, which is our middle density residential, and R3, which is our high density residential zones. It includes requiring sidewalks to be installed connecting to the front door from the sidewalk, an overhang of 12 inches on all sides of new family construction. It requires block diversity in the standard review. It also talks about 3-tab shingles being allowed in the 2-family dwelling units. And each family unit, as it goes up in density, gains a little bit more on the requirements. Then in general architectural design standards, that the buildings will be constructed with materials consistent with the characteristics of the neighborhood, including but not limited to brick, stone, wood, vinyl siding, fiber cement siding, and hardy plank. This helps assure that the neighborhood where a new home goes fits in with the design and the materials that are already on that street to keep that street's character going. We also talk about dimensional requirements. The multifamily dimensional being determined by parking requirements, open space limitations, yard requirements, and height, rather than just using a number for density. These are part of a package that's known as form-based zoning, where you can get as many units in the building as long as you can meet all the other requirements. And that means that if you have parking on site, you can only get so many units that you can provide for parking. But if you put the parking in a garage, suddenly you have the option for more units. And by doing so, you've got an area where your residents have an amenity at that point. Ties into the density and the like.
Ms. Harden,
Yes.
if you don't mind me interrupting you for 1 second.
please do.
I may be the only person who has this problem. As you talk about these things, I have a general sense of what you're talking about. However, I'm real visual. I think as many factors as we are considering for various kinds of locations, for R1, R2, and R3, for single individual residential, all the way up to apartment groups, that I'd like to see where you're proposing that vinyl siding might be okay as opposed to where hardy plank
Sure.
might be required.
Sure.
And I think in order to do it to where somebody like me would really understand it and make a wise decision is if we did it in a workshop.
Sure.
I just, there's just a lot of information, and the more you speak, the more it confuses me.
My husband says the same thing.
Okay, so
Sorry about that.
it is not you, it's not you. It's just that there's a lot of information.
Oh, I get it.
You know, we could make a decision, but I don't know that we would have thoroughly considered all of the, this is a lot.
Well, then what I would like to ask then is if in any of the reading, if anyone has had recognized up front any issues that they did not want to go forward with this package, in which case we can cross it off and I don't have to spend time putting that together. And if not, that's fine.
For me, nothing in particular sort of
right.
fit that match, but match that description, but
Yes, ma'am. No, I'm with you on the visual learner thing, and I'll be happy to do that.
thank you so much.
Would you like it at the?
It's a
next
little more
meeting?
time consuming, but I think it'll be worth a half hour as
Yes,
opposed to trying to squeeze this into, just one more issue paper.
I'm all about trying to make it easier. Do you
Ma'am.
want it at your next meeting as a workshop at the end?
Yes, ma'am, unless that's in a particularly long meeting. Can anybody tell already?
We won't know yet. If we can fit it on there, we will.
And if we need,
How about I make it available to be on the agenda at the next one, and if it goes, it goes. If not, it goes forward to the next one.
Perfect.
perfect. And how many members, if I might ask, how taxing would it be on members of the council if she needed to have this on other than a Monday night? If we were asked first for a common date that worked for us? Not too taxing, it looks like. So we can make it work. Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Before we get any more of that, thank you so much. And now we are, and I do apologize for stopping you. I was just getting a little bit cross-eyed. Thank you. We're now at the city administrator's report. Mr. Emmerich, who I hardly recognized. You're so tan.
My April tan. All right. First, I want to start off with a report on the permitting for the Smith Jones pool. We still do not have a permit from DHEC.
I'm calling it.
We've had some additional comments and we've answered those comments, so we're still waiting on the permit. We have begun the construction of a new gateway sign in front of the Conway High School. We have worked with both Horry County Schools and SCDOT on the placement of this sign. It's going to look similar to the one at Collins Park. It'll be a little bit bigger and it will incorporate some of the Conway Tigers theme into that sign. So that'll be, look
Will it
forward
be
to
on Conway High School property?
it is on
actually?
Conway High School property, sort of behind their existing sign. So it'll be a
Okay.
wall behind them. There is another public input workshop for the Pathways and Trails Plan tomorrow, April 19th, from 5:30 until 7 in the new Planning and Building Department at 2nd and Laurel, 196 Laurel Street. Again, that's 5:30 until 7, and it is I think it's a drop-in format, so you don't have to come for the whole meeting. You just stop by anytime in that time. The Great American Cleanup is scheduled for May 14th at 8 a.m. We will meet and begin from the Billy Gardner Sports Complex. That's always a fun event. As you remember, you allocated some funding for public art in the current year's budget and in the proposed upcoming budget. In furtherance to the school, we've recently released an RFQ seeking artists to contribute to the future of city public art projects. Now, these projects are not limited to murals, which is what we have been focusing on recently, but they may include sculptures, memorials, mosaics, integrated architecture, crosswalk paintings, and anything else that is artistic that might add to the fabric of Conway. And they're not limited to just the downtown and riverfront area either. They can be anywhere throughout the city. We typically recognize retirees at our annual Christmas party, but due to COVID, we've not done so since 2019. Therefore, on April 20th at 10 a.m., we'll recognize retirees from the city over the last 2 years, again at the new Planning and Building Department building at 196 Laurel Street. And it will be in the meeting room that you enter from the rear end by the Peanut Warehouse from that side. Next Wednesday at noon, that's the 27th of April, we're holding an employee luncheon on the town green. Of course, you all are invited to attend. That will start at noon. On April 28th, the city and Conway Downtown Alive are hosting an advanced painting showcase at 5th and Main at 6 p.m. Coastal Carolina students Avis Starnes and Andrea Mendoza will display their artistic talents in this gallery display. So there's an art installation partnering with Coastal Carolina.
That date again, please?
April 28th at 6 p.m. It's next Thursday. Some other news, the county is considering removing several roads that are in the city from their maintenance program. At this time, they're looking only at Collins Jolly Road, but they've indicated several others may follow. This does raise some concerns with us, as we'll ultimately have to take over any roads that they abandon. And we want to make sure that we are not saddled with roads that are in disrepair when we receive them. We've reached out for some clarification from the county, but just making you aware of that concern that's happening.
Can the city abandon some roads?
I guess if we did, they would be split up with either parcel owner and the road would go away.
Oh,
I don't know what happens when the county abandons. That's one of the things we're trying to find out. Finally, earlier today, we honored Ken Sen for his service and dedication to the city of Conway. Ken was a pioneer for the growth of our city's recreational offerings, beginning his career with the city in 1982. He just retired in January from the city for his second time after, well, calendar-wise, 40 years with the city. There was some spurts in there. That new building is the Ken Sen Athletic Offices at the Billy Gardner Sports Complex. If you see Ken, make sure you congratulate him. And tonight we have 3 department head reports from 3 different departments. We've got Judge Andy Hendrick in courts, Lynn Smith from Human Resources, and James Friday in Public Utilities. Judge, you want to go first? Thank you.
thank you. Judge, that means you get to go home first.
Y'all work hard. This will be very quick. Most of you are aware that we are right now transitioning from space here across the alley to the Pipeline Building. We don't know, I don't think anybody knows how permanent or temporary that's going to be, but everything seems to be going very smoothly. All court functions will be over there except Wednesday morning court, and we'll still be over here as long as that's possible, and we'll figure it out after that. Couple things on some enhancement on collections for delinquent fees and fines in general. We went to online payments on January 1st, and that's worked very well. Online payments now exceed walk-in payments and mail-in payments, so that's working really good. Also, pretty exciting, we went through the process of getting ramped up with the debt set off with the Department of Revenue. We've been into that debt set off program for the first part of the year. And so far, we've collected, with the help of the state, of course, about $14,000 in the first couple of months. So that's been a very positive development. We're fully staffed. We've got 3 full-time people. We got Tracy Sally from Magistrate's Court. She's been in Magistrate's Court in various offices for a lot of years, and she's wonderful. The 3 of them have established just a positive, efficient, very friendly work environment. So, and I think that the new facility over there is going to give them more space instead of being on top of each other. So things are in good shape.
Great.
Anybody have any questions for me?
Anyone? We thank you for all you do, Judge.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Ms. Smith?
Madam Mayor Cancel. I hope you all had a wonderful Easter holiday.
Yes.
I'll try to be quick. I know you had a lot tonight. We send out flyers to all employees once a month, and sometimes we'll send out 2, just depending on what we get. The information we get, we try to push it out as much as we can. In January, we sent out reimbursement for at-home COVID testing, and also some local pharmacies that are participating, you can get up to 8 COVID tests, and they just bill it on your insurance. In February, we sent out a focus on your mental health flyer. And in March, we did send out some information on free MUSC virtual. So MUSC has virtual online that you can sign on, and it's free. And so we've had several employees lately that have used that MUSC.care, and they love it. So we sent that information out also. Some of the events that we've had in January, we had the Super Bowl squares, and all employees were put on the Super Bowl squares, and we had winners for that. HR has started sending out handwritten birthday cards to all of our employees, and I know we've gotten some pretty good response from that. We've also sent out handwritten cards. We've just started this one in the last month. Just a thank you for what you do. So we've been rotating through the department. So we finished the shop area, and we've started on the downtown area. So all employees will be getting a handwritten card just to thank them for what they do for us. I was invited out to grounds and maintenance recently for breakfast, and I really enjoyed that. April 20th, as Adam said, this Wednesday, we'll be recognizing our retirees that we missed because of COVID, and that is at 196 Laurel. You all should have received an invitation for that. And on April the 27th, we'll be having an employee luncheon on the town green. And we'll be having pizza from 3 Guys on that day. We have a new hire orientation scheduled for April 25th, and we have summer worker orientation scheduled for May 17th and May 26th. The reason we have 2 for summer workers, most of those are students. They're younger and they need to come after school. So that's the reason for those 2. And we currently have the following open positions. We have a building inspector, public utilities crew leader, pump mechanic for public utilities, police officers, firefighter, automotive mechanic, public works trades worker, solid waste equipment operator, fitness associate, aquatics associate, a part-time lifeguards, and part-time athletic supervisor, and of course our summer workers. We are currently advertising for our summer workers, which is when we hire students to work throughout the summer. Already receiving a lot of applications for that. We've had several in-house promotions in the first quarter. In January, we've had Andrew Settlemeyer and Tyler Quantenmeyer from the police department that promoted from trainees to patrol. Jonathan McAllister promoted from police sergeant to police lieutenant. And Boyce Lilly and Josh Albright promoted from equipment operator 2s to crew leaders. So that was in January. In February, February, we had Jake Reed, Darius Moultrie, Brittany Granger, Lauren West, and they also promoted from trainees to officer patrol. Lucas Parton from the fire department promoted to a driver operator from firefighter 1. Tyrese Neesmith promoted from a senior master police officer to a police corporal. And Brian Rickey from a corporal to a sergeant. Anthony Wilson from an equipment operator 1 to 2 and solid waste, and Zane Jones from a trade worker 1 to a 2.
We can't applaud one group and not the next.
This will be the last group, and this is for March. Anthony Croniker from a driver operator to a fire sergeant, and from Jonathan Finch from a trainee to a senior police officer. Zach Noseworthy in the building from building maintenance tech to building inspector. Anna Miller from a part-time membership associate to full-time membership. Tristan Morgan-Carr from fitness associate to utility billing specialist. Tristan Casper from a part-time athletic to a full-time recreation assistant. David Fassbender from a senior police officer to a master police officer. And Preston Smith also from a senior to a master. And Kyle Todd also from senior to master. Dylan Baker from firefighter to firefighter operator.
Congratulations all.
It's a big group and it's always nice. I know that's long, a lot of names, but it's also nice to see in-house promoting. 2 retirees this year. Ken Sin retired on January 7th and Tim Chapman retired on March 31st. January, we had a few workers' comp claims. We had a police officer who was involved in an automobile accident. He had a knee and hand injury, but he's better. That file has been closed. We had another officer that had a knee injury, and that file also has been closed. They are better. And one that had a foot injury, police officer, and they are better, and that file has also closed. All these are workers' comp injuries. No injuries in February, no injuries in March. Family medical leave act, and one was from the police department that had back surgery, and they are still recuperating, getting better. And one from public utilities with heart surgery. A fun fact for you, we had 3 employees that had resigned from the city of Conway, and before they left, they changed their mind and decided to stay. And I think that says a lot about Conway and about this is the place to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nan. Not too many people get applauded for bringing a departmental report. You're the exception. Mr. Friday.
Let me top that.
The utility department installed 500 new water meters.
Wow.
And so far this year, 275 new services. They've replaced 729 water meters as part of a ongoing upgrade.
Wow.
And we've had 2,615 service requests.
This year?
This year. Yeah, we're busy. Let's see, and we repaired 267 water leaks and 208 sewer repairs made. Those were the highlights. We said we got 2 openings, a crew leader and a pump mechanic. And in the garage, they've had 257 work orders so far, and the top 3 visitors were utilities, solid waste, and police. We're always the frequent flyers there.
Yes, thank you so much for a good report. And now we'll move forward into our council input. I'm almost certain that the right end of this table this time is Ms. Beth Helms. I thought I did that last time. Did I not?
You sure?
You may be stuck for life. I mean, I don't know.
Y'all keep deferring to
I
me.
I was almost certain. Okay, well, I rescind that. Don't I get to rescind it? We're gonna ask Ms. Amanda Butler to go first. Because I'll mess it up next time anyway.
Okay, I didn't want to take Beth's shine, but real quick, I had a couple of calls that I just wanted to address. There were some people with some concerns. The first set of calls I got were from parents, and they were concerned about our youth in Conway. As you guys know, last week was spring break, and a couple of parents were like, well, the only thing for our kids to do is go to the beach. And there was nothing, their concern was that there was nothing in Conway for our youth to do. So I just wanted to kind of keep that in the back of everyone's mind. I do work with high schoolers, and so of course, most of my high schoolers were at the beach. So I kind of understood what the parents were saying. So I did just want to throw that out there. That was some of the concerns. And then I got actually a couple more calls concerning the Main Street Bridge. I actually got a call today, and there was a Conwayite that was concerned about the Main Street Bridge, and I think there was a piece of concrete that fell. And so they just wanted to see if council would continue to address those things. And so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And I think that's all I have today.
I'm just hearing about some things. Thank you. I'm sure we'll do what we can to get the right people acting in the right way. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. As Ms. Butler said, I think we all had fielded the calls about the bridge. Is it an enforcement issue with the truck route or what's going on there?
Where's Brandon? You mind? I actually asked Brandon to be prepared for this question, so if you don't mind, we'll break
Let's
protocol and
sure.
have him, yeah.
Sure. I'm just, please, just so we can all hear you, Brandon. I mean, sir.
How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
So the concrete that fell off the bridge on this instance here is, has nothing to do with traffic, trucks, nothing. It's a design. So I notified DOT when I was notified last Tuesday. They came out immediately, inspected the bridge for any kind of safety issues. We've been assured the bridge itself is safe for vehicles and pedestrian traffic. As far as structurally sound, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the bridge. What it was is the design, nobody really knows why, because it was designed so long ago. It's a little concrete lip that runs beside every single piece of metal under the bridge. It has no kind of reinforcement in it or anything. It's almost a cosmetic thing. So what happens when bridges, vehicles are going over them, they're designed to vibrate, they're designed to move a little bit. Those little pieces of concrete just fall off. And what it was explained to me, they had a meeting today at later this afternoon to determine a repair and when that repair would take place. Last thing they want to do is cause Conway any more headache with closing that bridge down at all. I assure you, that was the hot topic of do not close the bridge. There is a bridge in upstate that is very similar to ours that actually was designed the exact same way. So one of the possible fixes was to build a pan under each one of these metal beams where those little concrete lips are to catch the falling concrete. It actually has worked well for this bridge in the upstate. So that's not, have not been told that would be the fix. That was just a possible fix based on a similar bridge in the upstate. But as far as safety goes, the bridge is safe to go across. We will leave that portion of the sidewalk closed until SCDOT comes in and makes those repairs to prevent any concrete falling on anybody or anything like that. Any questions? We're kind of at the mercy with DOT. I spoke with Adam today. There's not 2025.
Everybody up here is holding their mouth exactly the same way.
Mm.
I'm just trying to figure out what that means. I think that means we're accepting of what you're saying for now.
Bridge is safe to drive on.
Okay.
I wouldn't walk up under it right now, but I can you drive on.
But we have sidewalks underneath.
We're rushing. We're trying to make it happen really quick. Hopefully we can get those repairs quickly.
All righty then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good.
See what you caused.
I know. Carry on.
All right, let's go.
You done? That was it? Oh, good. Been noticing some political signs popping up. I know we've got a primary coming up, but those are obviously outside the 40-day window.
There's a sweep scheduled for tomorrow morning.
Okay. Over the years, you all have heard, many of you have heard me whine and complain about the fire lanes at whether it's Food Line or Walmart or wherever people park. I can't stand it. It's my pet peeve. Many of you know that. But yesterday I was coming out and there was a car parked right up there in front. And I looked and I walked out and I almost got hit by a car. Seriously. I mean, thank goodness the lady driving the car like locked it up, and I have to claim some responsibility for that, right? But it's just a hazardous. It's a hazardous. I had like 3 kids with me or something, distracted. It's a hazardous situation, and it gets on my nerves. Third issue. Tonight, y'all, we were asked to make an emotional decision. And we can't do that. We have to make decisions that are based on facts and realities. And, there are people right now, because I've already seen some of it, that are saying that Conway City is anti-business because of our discussions up here. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And, but we've got to do things right. And allowing this rezoning sets a horrible precedent for any outside developer to come into Conway and do whatever they want to do and then ask for forgiveness. And I promise you that's what's going on. Finally, and this is a good story. So yesterday afternoon, I was had some of my family coming over for Easter dinner last night, and so I was blowing off the driveway. And right across the street at the Baptist church, there was an older couple in a truck, and they were parked there, and they kept looking at me. And as I got closer to the street, blowing the stuff that falls from the oak tree, they pulled out and they rolled their window down, and we stopped. And they were talking, and they said, we're from, I think the guy was retired military, and they lived in Myrtle Beach. They had never really been to Conway other than 501. And he said, we just wanted to ride over here and look at downtown. And we're riding around and they're asking questions. And so anyway, we talked for about 5 minutes, and I said, well, let me get in the truck and I'll ride around it with you. And so I did. we rode, they were nice enough. And look, but listen, they, took them, but they were so enthralled by the oak trees in the middle. I mean, there's just no concept of that. And they said, we just don't have this sense of community in Myrtle Beach. And it was just so refreshing. Like, never had that. I mean, we've had experiences where people come in and we hear great things, but it was just really cool to be their tour guide for about 10 minutes and, took them downtown and just, through some of the streets and whatnot. So it was just really, really refreshing. And anyway, so we've got something that other people are envious of. And it just goes back to why we have to preserve that and protect that. And we don't always get it right. And I've made decisions in the last 12 years that I wish I could take back. But I think for the most part, we're getting it right. And yesterday, with these folks that just were so enthralled with what we're doing down here, proves that. So I hope we stay on this trajectory. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. White.
2 things. A question on May the 14th, the town cleanup. Did I write that down correctly? Are we doing pothole stuff as well or no?
No pothole festival. It's litter pickup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I asked that part was about 2 or 3 years ago, I saw something on Facebook about Kowalt and Mayor Ike Long. That's why I brought that back up. Are we gonna have one of those again? Because I've got flooded on Facebook about.
We don't have any more potholes.
No. Yeah. So, and there's so much more liability with potholes. I mean, you're talking hot asphalt, shovels, people in the street.
We just don't have any potholes.
That's fine. That's good.
If you do, please let us know. We'll fix them immediately. We don't need to wait on a festival.
We don't wait for a festival. There you go. That's a good answer.
I take that. And I'm just waiting seriously about the pool at Smith Charles. And I just have to keep questioning and asking, and I won't call.
But do call so he doesn't call. Yeah, I know you do, but call more so he doesn't call. Do what you got to do so he doesn't call.
I'm going to the office this time. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Hyman.
Mayor, everything that I was going to say has already been discussed. I got calls too on the bridge, and I'll just say I echo exactly what William said. I'm somewhat passionate at times about that kind of stuff, but due diligence needs to be done. And I have a hard time not thinking that was good. But it's all good.
Thank you so much. Ms. Helms?
Let's see. I learned that shout out from being on the radio with Amanda. So I'm gonna give a shout out, a good praise to Brandon Harrelson and Mary Catherine for going the extra mile with me to go out to a city resident's house. And even though I don't think it happened like they wanted, but I actually saw the big picture and how things work. And it was, Adam stepped in and called me too. So that was a big field trip. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate the staff for helping me with that. And of course, thanks Adam for letting me throw the pitch at Coastal. I threw a strike, so I think I'm going to take my 4 years eligibility for first CCU baseball game. And I also want to mention that I think we need to talk about the future of City Hall. I think that as great of a city as we live in, that I think our senior staff needs a better place to work and something we can be proud of. Not that I'm not proud of this building, it's a historical building, but our staff works in some, go down there for a while, and you can just tell that the building needs some work. But and also I want to say that Sunday I rode around and looked at everybody's churches and the crosses and the azalea bushes, and we are blessed. And this is a great place we live, and I'm proud to be part of City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be really brief. At the new planning and building, I entertained a large group of fraternity from coastal Carolina, but Skip, I never heard of women being a part of a fraternity, but they were. They still call it a fraternity. Anyway, a nice group of kids. Well, after I got the door locked, this is a confession if anybody hadn't figured this out yet. After the door was locked and I had to walk around the building to get to where I was parked, I noticed some silk screening down the sidewalk, and there was this place where it was really low. And I stepped over it to avoid walking another half block. And just as I raised my second leg, I fell flat on my face in my white pants, but I didn't tear the silk fencing. And I wanted, if it's been damaged at all, I did it and I'll pay for it. But I was too embarrassed to tell anybody that day. I think it was Thursday last week, but yeah, I did that.
We might have security footage of that if you want to pull it for you.
Well, I'm really glad I confessed. And I was just reminded as I listened to the departmental reports that were put before us, something that Larry White would normally say. It has to do with the intentionality of our having our departments reflect our population. And, you know, if you've got a 2-person department, that's sort of one thing. I guess you start looking for other kinds of faces eventually, but like our court has 5 faces. You know, there comes a point in time when we're going to be challenged on why. And I think the challenge is right. Why, you know, you've got 5 or 6 people in the department and somehow or other, all of those people are European. They're qualified people. We just need to make sure that we're keeping that goal in mind, that our staff reflects the people that we serve. They deserve that from us. And with that confession done, I'm finished. If all hearts and minds are clear, I'm moved that we adjourn this meeting, or is there, yeah, this is it. I move that we adjourn this meeting. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor, please show your right hand. And the motion carries unanimously.